The stars blinked like cold, silent watchers in the black ocean of space. Jack Carter sat alone in the cockpit of his old cargo ship, the Whisper. The ship floated in deep space, far beyond the usual travel lanes. It was quiet. Too quiet. Not even the humming of distant comms or the usual chatter of trade beacons. Only silence. Jack leaned back in his seat, rubbing his temples. He had been running away for years. First from war, then from heartbreak, and now from life itself. He told himself he was a trader, a courier of small goods across empty sectors. But the truth was simpler. He didn't want to be found. Not by anyone. Not even himself. He reached out to adjust the ship's scanner. Just as his fingers brushed the panel, it happened. A whisper. Not through the radio. Not through any system. It was inside his head. "Please, I want to merge with you, human." Jack froze. His hand stopped midair. He blinked and looked around. The cockpit was still empty, just him and the stars. The whisper came again. Soft, gentle, sad. "Don't be afraid. I've been waiting for you." His heart pounded. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't dreaming. He checked the systems. No signal, no voice pattern. Nothing was logged. But he knew what he heard. "Who's there?" he said aloud. The whisper didn't reply. Jack felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He wasn't new to space madness. Long flights, isolation. It happened. People started hearing voices or seeing things. But this wasn't that. This voice didn't feel like his mind playing tricks. It felt real. The ship's navigation system blinked. A new set of coordinates appeared on the screen. Jack hadn't entered them. He hadn't even touched the console. It was like someone, or something, was guiding him. He should have turned back, but he didn't. Instead, he whispered, "What are you?" The voice returned, soft as moonlight. "I am what's left of a dream, and I'm dying." Jack didn't understand, but he felt something strange, a pull. A gravity, not from a planet, but from emotion, from loneliness, from something ancient and lost. He followed the coordinates. For hours, he flew through dark space, passing dead stars and forgotten moons. Finally, he reached it. A small moon with no name, hidden in the shadow of a dying gas giant. It wasn't marked on any maps. It wasn't even on the scanner until he got close. As he landed, dust rose from the surface like silver mist. The moon was quiet, lifeless, or so it seemed. He stepped out in his suit, scanning the area. No signs of buildings. No movement. But then his suit lit up. A heat signal. Just one. He followed it. Deep in a narrow canyon, glowing softly like a heartbeat, was a pod. Unlike anything he had ever seen. Not metal. Not stone. It looked alive, like it had grown from the ground. Thin, transparent walls pulsed gently, and inside floated a figure. A woman. She didn't look human. Her skin was silver with hints of violet. Her hair floated like smoke, shimmering with light. Her body was slender, graceful, curled like she was asleep, or waiting. Jack stared in silence. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Bright, luminous, otherworldly. They met his through the glass. And then, without sound, her lips moved. "I chose you." Jack stumbled back. His heart thudded. The voice, her voice, was the same one that spoke in his mind. "How do you know me?" he whispered. She placed her hand gently on the inside of the pod. Jack, almost without thinking, raised his own hand to meet it. A thin layer of glass separated them, but something passed through. A spark, a connection. Jack saw flashes, memories not his own. A golden world torn apart by war. A council of beings arguing. A decision made. A sacrifice. Her body placed into the pod. Her soul sent adrift. A mission with one goal. To find a human and become one with him. Jack staggered back, breathing hard. His head spun. "What are you?" he asked again. her eyes filled with light and sorrow. I am Saela, the last of the Soulbenders. I was created to find one human. Just one. And I have found you. The canyon grew quiet again. Even the dust seemed to freeze in the air. Jack looked at her, trying to make sense of everything. "Why me?" he asked. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them slowly. "Because you are broken, and so am I." The words hit something deep inside Jack, deeper than logic, deeper than fear. She reached her hand forward again. "Please, before I fade, I want to merge with you, body, mind, and soul." And Jack Carter, a man who had spent years running from everything, stood at the edge of the unknown and didn't turn away. Not yet. Jack Carter stood motionless in front of the glowing pod, his eyes locked with the alien woman inside. The dust of the moon swirled gently around his boots, but he didn't notice. Everything else faded. Only the silver-skinned woman remained real to him. Her name echoed softly in his head. Saela. She was not speaking aloud, but he could still hear her. The words came like thoughts, but they weren't his. It was her voice. Gentle, calm, full of quiet sadness. "I am the last of my kind," she whispered into his mind. "I was made to connect, to bond with a human. I searched across galaxies, and when I found your signal, I knew." Jack didn't know what to say. His mouth opened, but no words came. He had seen many strange things in deep space. Rogue AI, space storms, pirate fleets. But this was different. It wasn't danger he felt. It was something far more terrifying. It was connection. He stepped closer to the pod, staring into her glowing violet eyes. "How are you talking to me?" he asked quietly. Her lips moved again, though no sound passed. "Our minds are already touching. Only a little. It will grow stronger." Jack looked down at the side of the pod. There were no buttons, no screens, but something strange began to happen. As his hand hovered near the surface, the pod reacted. A soft blue light pulsed around his fingers, following his motion. The pod recognized him. It was waiting for him. He looked back at her. "What happens if I open this?" "You will feel a part of me enter you," she said. "Only a little to begin with. If it is safe, I will know. Then, we can begin the merge." Jack frowned. "You keep saying that word. Merge. What does it mean?" Saela's eyes didn't leave his. "My body is part organic, part energy. I was created during a war. My people believed humans held something we lacked. A soul strong enough to heal and guide. So they built me to find one. Just one human. And bond with him. To share thoughts, feelings, strength, pain, purpose. We would become one being." Jack took a step back, unsure whether to believe her or run. "This is insane," he muttered. "Yes," she replied, "but it is also true." He stared at her, torn between reason and instinct. Everything about her was wrong. She was alien, unknown, potentially dangerous. But still, something inside him felt drawn to her. Her words were not cold or artificial. They carried emotion, longing, fear, hope. And Jack knew what it was like to feel those things. He had lost his brother in the Mars riots, lost his best friend in a pirate ambush, lost the woman he loved because he couldn't love himself. He had floated through life like a ghost, just delivering cargo, watching planets come and go like blinking stars. And now this stranger was offering to share something real, something more than survival. His hand trembled as he touched the glowing surface of the pod. It didn't feel like glass. It felt warm, alive. Suddenly, a wave of light passed from the pod into his body. Jack cried out and fell to one knee. Images flooded his mind. A golden planet with twin suns, a city made of crystal and light, a council chamber with tall beings speaking without words, Saela standing before them, her body glowing with fresh energy, a machine lowering around her. her being slowly sealed inside a pod. Then silence, drifting through space, endless darkness, and a constant whisper in her heart. Find the one. Jack's vision cleared, and he gasped for air. He was sweating. His heart raced. She was kneeling inside the pod, her hand against the wall. Her breathing matched his, though no sound passed between them. "You saw it," she said gently. "You felt me." Jack shook his head slowly, still stunned. "What? What did you do to me?" "Only a small link," Saela said, "to show you I am not lying." He stood up slowly. "You could have taken control of me." "I didn't," she said. "You could have hurt me." "I didn't." Jack looked down at his shaking hands. They glowed faintly now. Not bright, just a soft light under the skin, like his blood carried stars. "I don't understand what's happening to me," he whispered. "You are changing. Only a little." Your mind opened the door, and now mine has gently stepped through. Jack turned away from the pod, trying to breathe. His ship's AI came online in his suit. "Warning. Neural activity is abnormal. Suggest immediate retreat." "I can't," Jack replied. "Alien life form is altering brain waves," the AI continued. "Hostile potential. Unknown." Jack deactivated the voice. He stood in silence for a long moment, his eyes closed, the stars above watching. Finally, he turned back to her. "Why me?" he asked again. "You said you searched across galaxies. You could have chosen anyone." Saela's voice grew softer. "I watched you drift through space alone. Not for weeks, for years. You didn't try to conquer. You didn't try to escape. You just kept going. Quiet, kind, sad. But you never gave up. Not fully." She moved inside the pod, her fingers spreading out against the wall. "I don't want to take over your mind," she said. "I want to understand it. I don't want to erase your soul. I want to be part of it." Jack felt his chest tighten. No one had ever said something like that to him. He stepped forward again. His hand touched the same place as hers, separated by a thin, glowing wall. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said. "Neither do I," she replied. "But I know this is real." There was a pause. Jack looked into her eyes, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was floating through life. He felt something pull him back down. Something warm. Something that mattered. "I'll open the pod," he said finally, "but just for a moment." Saela didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "Then let me show you who I am." And as Jack reached for the lock, not knowing if he was about to change his life forever or lose it completely, one final thought passed through his mind, and it wasn't his own. It was hers. "Thank you for not letting me die alone." A soft hiss echoed through the canyon as the pod opened for the first time in centuries. Vapor escaped like a sigh from the past, curling into the thin air around Jack Carter. His hand trembled slightly as he stepped back, watching the clear, living wall of the pod dissolve into mist. Inside, Saela slowly began to move. She wasn't breathing hard. She didn't panic. She stood with elegance, like a leaf gently swaying in windless air. Her silver skin shimmered under the moon's pale light, and her violet eyes glowed like distant stars. She stepped forward with bare feet that made no sound, her long hair drifting around her like light. Jack couldn't speak. His heart beat loudly in his chest, but it wasn't fear that held him still. It was awe. He had seen many strange creatures during his time in space, but nothing like this. Saela wasn't just an alien. She was something else. Something sacred. She stopped a few steps away from him. Her eyes scanned his face slowly, as if memorizing him in every detail. He saw her blink for the first time, and it made her seem strangely human. "You are more than I expected," she said softly. This time, her voice came through the air. It was quiet, like music played far away, but it was real. Jack swallowed and nodded once. "You're real." "Yes," she replied. "And so are you." A silence followed. Jack glanced down at his hands. The soft glow from before still pulsed faintly under his skin. It didn't hurt, but it felt like something was alive inside him now. Something watching. Something listening. He looked back up. What happens now? Saela stepped even closer. Jack didn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on his, not with hunger or command, but with something gentler. Curiosity. Care. Maybe even fear. "I want to try a shallow merge," she said. "No body. No deep soul touching. Just thoughts. Just a moment." Jack hesitated. He had already felt a piece of her inside his mind earlier. The flash of memories. Her world. Her pain. It had left him shaken, but also changed. He nodded slowly. "Okay. Just don't go too deep." Saela raised her hand, and without touching him, she hovered her fingers just inches from his forehead. Jack stood still. A warmth spread across his skin. Not heat, but a kind of presence. Then, everything around him disappeared. The canyon, the stars, even his own body faded. He found himself floating in a space of silver mist. It wasn't empty. It was full of feeling. He could feel Saela. Her mind was not like his. It moved in soft spirals, flowing like water, not thought by thought, but in waves. She didn't speak in words here. She sent emotions, memories, hopes, wounds. Jack saw her world again, clearer this time. A golden planet spinning slowly under twin suns, creatures of light and music building cities out of stone that hummed with energy. Then more. Beings from another galaxy had come, not to talk, but to take. They hunted her kind for their minds. They wanted power, not peace. Saela's people had one last plan: create a soul form, part physical, part energy, who could escape and find something their species had never truly understood: a human soul. A soul strong enough to carry what they had lost. Jack felt tears in his eyes. He hadn't cried in years. Then suddenly, the vision ended. The mist faded. He was back on the moon. Saela stood before him, her hand lowered, her eyes wet with emotion. "I didn't mean to show you so much," she whispered, "but your mind was open." Jack wiped his eyes. "You weren't lying. You really are the last." Saela nodded. "If I don't merge soon, I'll begin to fade. My core is unstable. The energy inside me can't survive long outside the pod." Jack felt his chest tighten. "And what happens if you merge with the wrong person?" Her gaze lowered. "Then we both die." Jack stared at her for a long time. His instincts told him to run. Everything about this was impossible, dangerous, unnatural. But another part of him, a deeper part, felt something different. She wasn't a weapon. She wasn't a trick. She was someone who didn't want to die alone. And neither did he. "I want to help," he said finally, "but I don't know what that really means yet." Saela looked up at him. Her voice cracked slightly when she replied, "It means letting me be near you, letting me learn you, letting your soul stay open." Jack nodded slowly. "We'll take it one step at a time." She smiled, just a little. It was the first time he had seen it. The smile was small, unsure, but full of something he thought he had forgotten existed: hope. They began walking together toward his ship. The dust of the moon kicked gently beneath their feet. Saela glanced at the sky and whispered, "I can't believe I'm standing outside again." Jack glanced at her. "It's been that long." "Time moved differently in the pod," she said, "but I felt every moment." As they reached the ship, the AI scanned her and sounded an alarm. "Unrecognized life form detected. Extreme energy readings. Recommend full quarantine." Jack shut the AI down again. "She's with me," he muttered. They stepped inside the Whisper. Jack watched her as she looked around the small ship like a child seeing the world for the first time. Every surface, every light, every sound fascinated her. He set a small sleeping pod in one corner of the room. "You can rest here." Saela nodded. "Thank you." As Jack sat down, The exhaustion hit him. His body felt drained, like he'd run 1,000 miles. But even as his eyes closed, he could still feel her near him. Not just physically. Inside, a gentle presence, watching over him. As he drifted into sleep, one final thought passed between them, shared like a secret. We are not one yet, but already. I feel less alone. And so did he. The whisper floated silently through deep space once more, its engines humming with soft pulses like a heartbeat. Inside the small ship, Jack Carter stood by the front window, staring into the endless black ocean that stretched forever beyond the glass. Stars blinked in the distance, distant and cold. But this time, something felt different. He wasn't alone anymore. Behind him, Saela sat cross-legged on the floor of the cargo bay, her body still glowing faintly in the dim light of the ship. Her silver skin shimmered with the soft reflections from the control panel, and her violet eyes were closed, focused inward. She was meditating, or something close to it. Her presence filled the room like warm light without ever making a sound. Jack glanced over his shoulder. He hadn't spoken much since waking up. He didn't know how to explain what was happening inside him. He still felt like himself. He could think, speak, feel, but there was something else now. A thread gently woven into his mind. Thoughts that weren't his, feelings that didn't start from him, but now lived inside him anyway. Quiet impressions, echoes of her. Sometimes he thought about fear, and she would comfort him from inside. Sometimes he felt nothing at all, and she would breathe a soft feeling into him, like light pressing against skin. Jack turned back to the window. Then something sharp cut through the quiet peace. A high-pitched alarm. Unknown signal detected, the ship's AI said in a flat voice. Powerful energy burst from deep space. Tracking vector. Approaching fast. Jack's eyes widened. He rushed to the console and brought up the scanner. A red dot blinked against a sea of black. Moving fast. Too fast. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't a ship from Earth. It was something else. He didn't need to ask. Saela stood quietly behind him now. She didn't look surprised. They found me, she said softly. Jack turned to her. Who? She didn't answer right away. She stepped closer to the window and looked out into space as if she could already see them. My creators were not the only ones interested in the merge, she said. There were others. Cruel ones. They believed our kind was dangerous. Unnatural. Some of them hunted us. Jack felt his stomach tighten. And now they're coming for you. She turned to him. No, now they're coming for us. The red dot grew larger. Jack quickly fired up the ship's engines. We need to leave this area now. I can help, Saela said. Jack frowned. You can fly a ship. No, she replied. But I can give you more time. Before he could ask what she meant, she stepped forward and pressed her hand against the navigation console. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights on the dashboard flickered and turned blue. The ship vibrated. The engines roared with more power than Jack had ever felt from them. He stared at her. What did you just do? Saela took a deep breath. I connected. A small merge. I amplified the system's flow. Only for a few seconds. I can't hold it long. Jack didn't waste time. He punched the throttle, and the whisper shot forward into the black, stars streaking across the glass like falling lights. The red signal stayed behind for a moment, but then it followed. Faster. Stronger. The hunter was gaining. Jack's hands flew across the controls. His mind worked fast. He couldn't outgun a warship. The whisper was fast, but it wasn't made for combat. He needed a plan, a place to hide, somewhere the enemy wouldn't dare follow. Then he remembered. There was a gas giant not far from their position. It had a magnetic field so strong it messed with ship systems, dangerous to fly through, but perfect to disappear in, if you had the nerve. We're going into the storm, Jack said. Saela looked at him and nodded. The ship banked hard toward the coordinates. Alarms rang. The AI warned of danger. Jack ignored it. They entered the upper atmosphere of the gas giant. Orange clouds swirled around them like boiling fire. Static cracked outside the ship like claws scraping against metal. The lights flickered. Then the ship shook violently. "We're losing hull pressure," the AI said calmly. Jack gritted his teeth. "Just hold together, damn it." Saela placed her hand on the wall. The vibration slowed. The systems steadied. She wasn't just healing the ship. She was feeling it, becoming part of it. They dove deeper into the gas giant, where even light couldn't reach. And then, silence. Nothing on the scanner. No more red dot. Jack took a deep breath. They had escaped. For now. He leaned back in his chair, his muscles aching. He looked over at her. "You saved us." Saela smiled faintly. "You trusted me." A long silence followed. Jack stared at the clouds outside, still glowing dimly from below. His voice came out soft. "Why are they so afraid of the merge?" She turned her head slowly. "Because when two beings join completely, when their minds and hearts unite, it creates something stronger than fear. It creates understanding." Jack looked at her. "And they fear that. They fear anything they can't control." He nodded slowly, thinking. Then he whispered, "I don't want to lose myself." Saela stepped closer. She placed her fingers lightly over his chest. "You won't," she said. "Merging doesn't mean disappearing. It means becoming more." Jack looked at her hand. It was warm. Not in temperature, but in presence. It felt alive, like something was waiting inside her, full of light. And it wanted him to believe. He met her eyes. "Then let's keep going," he said, "but slow." She nodded once. "Slow is enough." Outside, the storm raged in silence. But inside, something had begun. Something deep. Something new. And neither of them wanted to run from it anymore. The storm outside the ship had calmed, but the air inside was still heavy. Not with fear, not anymore, but with something else. Uncertainty. And quiet closeness. The whisper hovered deep inside the thick clouds of the gas giant, its systems dimmed to conserve energy, hidden from the hunters who chased them. Jack Carter sat on the floor of the small ship, leaning back against the cold wall of the control room. Across from him, Saela sat with her knees drawn to her chest, her silver hair draped over one shoulder, moving gently with the artificial breeze. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Jack stared at her hands. They looked human in shape, but weren't truly human. Her fingers were longer. Her skin had no lines. She didn't breathe the way he did. Yet every time she looked at him, her eyes held something familiar. Not human, but something close. "Were you ever alive in the way I am?" Jack finally asked, breaking the silence. Saela looked up, her voice soft and steady. "My body was grown in a chamber. My mind was written by the minds of many. But my soul came from silence, from waiting, from longing." Jack frowned. "That's not an answer." She tilted her head. "Then ask me again." Jack looked away for a moment, then back at her. "Are you alive, Saela?" She blinked slowly, then nodded once. "Yes, I just never had someone to live for." He didn't speak after that. He understood more than he wanted to admit. Jack had been breathing, eating, flying for years, but he hadn't felt alive in a long time. His past was full of shadows, lost faces, empty decisions. He didn't talk to people. He didn't make friends. He delivered cargo and floated through life like a ghost. But this strange being in front of him, she made him feel like his heart still had weight, like it could be more than a muscle beating in the dark. Saela shifted slightly. Her fingers touched the metal floor as if feeling its texture for the first time. "Do you remember your home?" Jack nodded slowly. "Earth, a long time ago. What was it like?" He smiled faintly, a bitter curl on his lips. "Crowded, loud, beautiful in places, broken in others. It had mountains, skies that changed colors every hour. People laughed there. People fought. But I remember the way the air smelled after rain. I remember the feel of real wind. Saela closed her eyes and listened carefully, as if holding every word like treasure. Your memories are warm, even when they hurt. Jack chuckled softly. Yeah, that's what makes them hard to forget. She looked at him again. Will you show me one? Jack blinked. A memory. She nodded, not through a full merge. Just an open thought. If you trust me. He hesitated, then closed his eyes. He picked a memory carefully, one not full of pain, not full of war, just something simple, real. It was a field of tall grass behind his childhood home. He was 10 years old, running through it barefoot, the sun burning above, laughter echoing in the wind. His dog, a small mutt with one ear, chased him, barking joyfully. He remembered the warmth of the sun on his skin, the smell of grass, the way the world felt big but safe. He opened his eyes. Saela was crying. Her tears were silver, glowing softly as they slid down her cheeks. That was beautiful, she whispered. I've never known sunlight. I've never run like that. I've never laughed. Jack looked at her, stunned. You felt all of it. Yes, like it was my own. You gave it to me. And it became real, for a moment. A strange feeling filled Jack's chest. Not sadness, not guilt. It was something deeper. A mix of wonder and grief. I didn't mean to make you cry, he said. You didn't, she replied. You reminded me what living looks like. She reached out her hand, not to merge, not to connect, but just to touch. Jack looked at it for a long moment, then reached forward and placed his hand in hers. Her fingers were cool, soft. He didn't flinch. They sat there, hand in hand, in silence. Then the ship gave a soft warning tone. Jack looked at the console. We have power again. We can move. Saela nodded. We're not safe here forever. Do you think the hunters are still searching? They never stopped, she said, but we're ahead of them for now. Jack stood and went to the controls. Saela followed slowly, her steps light and silent. They both looked out at the swirling clouds of the gas giant. It was like being inside a dream, a golden fog of danger and safety at once. Jack punched in a course toward the nearest dark sector, a zone full of asteroid belts and dead satellites. It wasn't friendly, but it was the perfect place to hide and think. As the ship lifted out of the storm, Saela touched the glass of the window. Do you know why I chose you? She asked suddenly. Jack looked at her. I don't know. You weren't trying to be anything, she said. You weren't searching for glory or control or answers. You were just drifting, like me. You weren't afraid of being lost. That's why I reached out. That's why you heard me. Jack said nothing. She continued, when I touch your mind, I don't feel weakness. I feel space. I feel room to grow. He turned back to the controls. I don't know if I'm ready for all this. You don't have to be, she said gently. Just don't close the door. Jack nodded once. They stared out the window together, watching the stars return as the ship left the gas giant's shadow. Saela's hand still glowed faintly, and Jack could still feel that quiet link between them. Not a full merge. Not yet. But something was growing, and for the first time in a long time, Jack Carter didn't feel like he was drifting through space alone. He was moving forward, with someone beside him. Even if she wasn't human, even if he didn't understand her, even if the whole galaxy was hunting them, something in him whispered that this connection, this slow and strange merging of souls, might be the one thing worth fighting for. The asteroid field stretched like a maze of broken bones in space. Jack Carter guided the Whisper carefully through the drifting rocks. Engines low, shields humming softly as tiny debris scraped past the hull. The ship had been flying silent for hours, hiding, waiting, watching. Behind him, Saela stood near the back of the cockpit, her body still and calm, but her eyes alert. Every time a large asteroid passed too close, her fingers twitched, like she was ready to reach out. Not to the controls, but to him. Jack hadn't said much since entering the field. His focus was sharp, his eyes locked on the sensors, but his mind was spinning. Something was changing inside him. Not just thoughts or memories, but reactions, instincts. He noticed things he didn't before. Energy flows, magnetic shifts, even emotional traces. Sometimes he knew what Saela was feeling before she said anything. And sometimes she didn't have to say anything at all. He could feel her presence inside him now, like a quiet song in the background of his mind. It wasn't loud, it wasn't invasive, but it was always there. And it was growing. He didn't know if that was good or bad. "I can feel them again," Saela said suddenly. Jack turned sharply. "The hunters." She nodded. "Not close yet, but coming. They're following our trace, even through the interference." Jack swore under his breath. "I thought this field would hide us." It did, for a while. He leaned back in the chair, frustration crawling up his spine. "They won't stop, will they?" "No," she said quietly. "They were created for one purpose: to erase beings like me. We threaten their control." Jack stood and began pacing the tight space between the navigation console and the cargo wall. "We can't keep running forever." "No," she agreed. Jack stopped and looked at her. "Then we need to fight." Her eyes flickered with concern. "You are not a soldier anymore, Jack." He nodded. "I know, but I still remember how to fight." She stepped forward, her voice softer. "They will come with weapons that tear through ships. They will come with minds designed to break connections like ours. If you fight them now, you will die." Jack stared into her glowing violet eyes. "Then what do we do? Wait for them to kill us slowly?" Saela's face held stillness, but behind it was a storm. "There is one way," she said at last. Jack waited. A full merge. His body tensed. "We connect completely," she said. "No walls, no resistance. You and I become one." He turned away. "You said we weren't ready." "I still believe that," she said, stepping closer. "But if they reach us before we are, then there won't be time." Jack's mind raced. The shallow link had already changed him. He felt her emotions. Sometimes her memories blended with his. Sometimes he dreamed of things he'd never seen. Stars born inside crystal, oceans that sang in harmony with moons. But a full merge. He didn't know what would be left of him afterward. "Will I still be me?" he asked. She hesitated. "You will be more than you are now. But yes, your core will remain." "And you?" "I will be complete," she said. For the first time, he turned to her slowly. Her face wasn't just calm. It was hopeful, but also scared. Her body looked strong, perfect even, but he could see it in her eyes. She was fading. Her glow dimmed each day. The connection kept her alive, but it wasn't enough. Jack stepped closer. He touched her hand. "I'm scared." "So am I." "Will it hurt?" "I don't know." The moment hung between them like a single thread, stretched to the point of snapping. Outside the ship, an alarm blared. Jack turned back to the scanner. A red signature blinked into view. Fast. Large. The hunter ship was close. Too close. "They found us," he said. Saela stepped to his side. "We don't have time." The hunter ship's energy grew stronger. Within seconds, it would be within firing range. Jack's ship had no weapons powerful enough to stop it. No shields thick enough to survive it. Only one option remained. Jack looked at her. "Do it." Her eyes widened. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "No, but do it anyway." Saela reached out slowly. Her hands touched his face. Her fingers spread across his temples. Her eyes locked on his. "Close your eyes," she said. He did. And then everything changed. There was no pain, no light, no explosion. There was silence. Then breath. Then everything. Jack was floating again, but this time not in space. He was in memory, in light, in heat. He felt Saela, every part of her. Her fear, her longing, her years alone, trapped inside the pod, waiting in silence, hoping someone, anyone, would hear her call. He felt her first thought, the moment she became self-aware. He felt her first sorrow, watching her creators fall. He felt her final hope when she reached out and found him. And she felt him too. She saw Jack's childhood through his eyes. She heard his brother's laugh. She tasted the rain on Earth. She felt his loneliness after the war, his guilt, his numbness, his soft desire to live, buried deep under years of quiet survival. Their thoughts became a river, one current, not separate. They were no longer Jack and Saela. They were something new. The ship exploded with light. From the hunter ship's view, it was as if a star had been born inside the asteroid field. The Whisper glowed white-hot for a moment, then disappeared from every scanner. Vanished. Inside the ship, Jack opened his eyes. His heart still beat. His body still moved. But he was different. Saela's voice was not in his ears. It was in him. He stood slowly. He looked at his hands. They glowed softly, but they were still his. He could feel the engines. He could feel the space outside. He could feel her, not as someone beside him, but within him. She whispered, "We are alive." He whispered back, "Yes." The hunter ship searched the field, but it couldn't find them. Because they weren't just hiding. They had become something it could not track. Something it could not understand. Together, the silence after the merge was not empty. It was alive. Jack Carter stood alone, or at least he looked alone, on the quiet deck of the Whisper as it drifted beyond the asteroid field. The stars outside the ship no longer looked cold to him. They burned with a strange new warmth, as if they recognized him now, as if they whispered back. He took slow breaths, deep, steady, but every breath carried more than air. He could feel her inside him. Saela was no longer a separate presence floating in a pod or standing in the ship beside him. She was part of him now. Every heartbeat, every thought, every breath was shared. He walked through the narrow hallway of the ship. His footsteps echoed, but they no longer sounded hollow. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with life, responding to him, recognizing him. The ship's systems, the engines, the power core, all of them hummed in a new rhythm. Saela's rhythm, his rhythm, one rhythm. He touched the wall lightly, and it vibrated under his hand. A soft glow followed his fingertips, like the ship was breathing with him. "I can feel everything," Jack said quietly. Her voice came not in words, but in feelings, in presence, in thought. "And I can feel you." He reached the cockpit, where stars filled the window like endless roads stretching through forever. He sat down and closed his eyes. A million thoughts moved in him, but none of them rushed. They flowed calmly, like two rivers joined after a long journey. Jack remembered how afraid he had been, of her, of the merge, of losing himself. But now he understood. He hadn't lost anything. He had gained everything. Her memories rested softly in the corners of his mind. He didn't see them unless he chose to. But when he did, he could walk through her childhood of silence and light, feel the weight of her waiting, the beauty of her people's last hopes. And she could walk through his, see the blue skies of Earth, taste coffee on cold mornings, feel the weight of grief on a soldier's chest. They were different still, two souls, but not apart, together, and stronger for it. The ship's scanner beeped once. Jack opened his eyes and saw a planet in the distance, not marked on any chart, but he could feel something in it. Life, warmth, a place untouched by war or machines. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. Yes, Saela replied inside him. He guided the ship toward it. The planet grew closer, and soon the surface came into view. Lush forests, clear oceans, mountains that touched the sky. A place where no one would search for them. A place they could begin again. As the ship descended through the clouds, Jack felt his heart begin to race, not from fear, but from something he hadn't known in years. Excitement. They landed in a quiet valley, surrounded by glowing trees and soft wind. Jack stepped out of the ship and stood on the green earth, feeling the soil under his boots. The sunlight hit his face. For a moment, he simply stood there, breathing. I missed this, he whispered. He felt her warmth rise in his chest. So did I. He walked into the field. Flowers bent gently as he passed. The wind curled around him, and for the first time since the war, since the loneliness, since the drifting, he smiled. They spent days exploring the planet. The nights were quiet and full of stars, and Jack would lay on the soft ground and close his eyes, letting Saela show him parts of herself he hadn't seen before. Her dreams, her questions, her longing to be more than a creation. And in return he gave her pieces of himself he had hidden away. Memories of his mother's voice, the feel of rain on metal rooftops, the ache of old scars. One evening, as the orange light of sunset bathed the valley, Jack stood at the edge of a high cliff, staring at the horizon. Saela spoke from within him, her voice soft like silk against his bones. I never thought I would feel love. He placed his hand over his chest. And now I live inside it. He closed his eyes. His throat tightened. He had never said the words before. Not to her. Not to anyone. Not for years. But now, he didn't need to. Because she already knew. He whispered anyway, just to feel the sound of it in the wind. I love you. The sun dipped behind the mountains. That night, as the stars returned, something else happened. Not loud, not bright, but powerful. Their bond deepened. Not in fear, not in desperation, but in peace. Jack no longer felt like a man who had drifted too far from home. He didn't feel broken anymore. He felt whole, because a part of him, one he didn't know was missing, had returned. And Saela, once a being born only to connect, had finally found what she had searched for across galaxies, not just a human, a partner. Together, they watched the stars above and felt no need to run. The hunters never found them again. The galaxy moved on. But somewhere in the quiet stretch of stars, in a small green world untouched by war, lived a man and a soul once separated by time and space, now bound together in a way no machine could measure. Not just body, not just mind, but soul. Together, always.